So Jan, why don't you come on back up and we can answer questions and get your thoughts.
Well, I mean, the first one is you basically just phased out my job.
No, I said you got to have a foreign sales agent. Yeah, I still believe that. Okay, so comments or questions? Okay, the 10 ways. So that's, okay. Let's go back. We'll get, okay, so wait. Sorry, I have to run through it in order. I'll get there though. Have the clipboards been floating around? Has that been happening? People, yeah? They're good. Okay, so I should get out of the way of your... No, you're missing one. Missing one, okay. Changing the world. That's the most important. Now, if you signed up, I'm going to send you an article that will have these drawings and lists and more detail. So, Jan.
Thank you.
Is there a mic floating around?
Yes.
Is that a mic? Yes, floating. We'll get you. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for all that. That was very interesting. I would like to know, how do you make sure that what you do before you meet the distributor is not getting in the way of the strategy that the distributor wants to do?
Maybe a question for me. Well, sure. The easiest example is the film that gets to us. And one of the questions that we asked the filmmakers, so what have you already done? And then they say, we were refused by Sundance, we were refused by IDFA, we were refused by Berlin. So you see, it's important that people like us know what has been done before. And we prefer those films to be completely virgin. That's why in many cases we get interested in films when the films are in the fine cut stage. So things have not been done yet. But it's really, I mean, I know a zillion cases of films that were not really ready, already being submitted to film festivals, and that's a problem.
Well, let me give you an example. On this issue, I believe that all filmmakers should retain the right to sell download streams and DVDs from their website, and I don't think you should agree to any distribution deal where that's not possible.
I agree with that.
Originally...
no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, Jan agrees. So originally, I can remember a conversation I had, it was probably 2004, 2005 with a film, and I went to the video distributor and I said, we've already sold 13,000 DVDs from the website. So first the video distributor was like, oh, that's a problem. You know, you've already, reached the market, and I'm not sure we want to do it. And I said, are you kidding? We've scratched the surface of the core audience, and we haven't crossed it over to a general audience. So the distributor says to me, are you sure? I like that question. So I go, yes, I'm sure. And it turned out that I was right, and they sold over 50,000 DVDs in the first year. So what the old idea was, it's a zero-sum game. If the filmmaker sells 100 DVDs, the distributor is going to sell 100 less. I said, that's not true. If the filmmaker's active partnering with the distributor, there's going to be more sales in retail. So it's a bigger pie, everybody's going to do better. So what you want to find is distributors who want you as a partner. And the smartest distributors think of all the ways that filmmakers can be really helpful. They know the core audience, they have ways to reach them, they're not getting paid to market the movie. So together, that's the relationship. The old model is master-slave. Distributor is in control, filmmaker, has no power, doesn't make the decisions. If they take their phone call, they're doing well. So when you're talking to other filmmakers, you really want to find out there's distributors that understand the value of having a good partnership, and then they know, in the case of Jan, he has expertise to do things that only Jan can do, and the filmmakers can do their thing to help spread the word in other ways.
But it is true that indeed, if you want your film to kick off its life via a festival circuit, and you start to allow screenings all over the place, it's a little bit of a problem. I mean, we get continuously emails from smaller and call it more regional or local film festivals for screenings, but we also put it against the map and see where we are in the strategy, if that would fit in. I mean, if the film has kicked off its career in a launch pad and has a major done in the next months following a tour through the A-list, then we can start allowing other screenings. It's a bit of a step-by-step situation. You have to be careful about that because the launchpad festivals are very, very, very strict.
You can do private screenings, which means the public isn't invited, you're not charging admission, it might be some small screening, that's okay. But if you do public screenings, then that's a problem for Sundance or Toronto or all these people. So you really got to be careful about the sequence of things, and if you're not sure, you can talk to people like Jan and he'll make it clear. Yeah.
Peter,
yeah.
A question. It's not always easy. I guess in some cases it would be pretty straightforward, but in others not. How to figure out your core audience? How do you do that? That's the question.
Well, it's trial and error. Okay, so let's say that you're doing crowdfunding. So you create some kind of teaser. Maybe it's not a trailer. Maybe there's no footage shot yet, but you want to give a sense of the movie you want to make. And you're going to get response to that trailer being out there or teaser being out there, and you're going to start to see, who's responding. If you do a crowdfunding campaign and you work really hard for 30 days and nobody gives you any money, that might be a sign of what your distribution is going to be if you make the movie. So you might think about changing subjects. But I think that as you go step by step, so you can try people, you can try organizations, you can try individuals, tell them what the movie's about and see what kind of response you're going to get. And the advantage is that you keep going step by step. You're going to learn as you go because you're directly in touch with these people. If you were a major studio and you were making a distribution plan, you would just follow it blindly. You, as a lean and mean team of independent filmmakers, are nimble, all right? So you can do stage 1 and see what the response is and then modify what you do in stage 2. So you can refine your strategy as you go. That's a tremendous advantage over just blindly making a plan.
Yeah, it's just look at the subject. Sorry, look at the subject matter.
If it's already done, well, okay. So you've got a film you can show to some people and get a response. The thing about core audiences is if they like your movie, they're going to be incredibly helpful, and if they hate your movie, that's really horrible. So you're going to have to see if there are other core audiences that respond to the movie. And you're never going to know for sure. I mean, you're going to hope that, I don't know, teachers are going to like the movie, and you'll find out that for some reason it's not working for them, but then there may be parents that, that come in. So it's a process of engagement, and the difference between 4 degrees of separation and 1 degree of separation is that you're actually getting the information, and then you can, use it. Some films it's harder, and there are some films, like yesterday I met with some filmmakers here. One case, it was a film that had potentially a really big audience, but difficult starting points. In another case, there was a film that had a clear core audience, but potentially not that big an audience. So I think each film has different opportunities, and that's why think of a spectrum of distribution from customized distribution, where you make a plan for an individual film, to formulaic distribution, where every film's distributed the same way. All right? So you want to be as customized as you can and have that ability to learn the possibilities for your film and then maximize them rather than just throw it against the wall and hope it sticks.
If we try to find theatrical distribution in different territories, we give the potential distribution companies that we like, that we trust, indications where to look for those core audiences. I have a film one of the films that plays here is called The Ghosts in Our Machine, a Canadian film about animal rights. And I'm trying to sell that film to good distribution companies locally in this country by telling the story, by making the connection between the Animal Party, which is a political party in Holland about animals. And they are now flocking to all the screenings here. They are the core group that will propagate that film further down and hopefully cross over to a larger audience.
Right.
I have a film here that is taken up by distribution companies to get the core audience, are yoga teachers, in their territory, their country. Right. Think about the subject and try to find out in territories where are these organized people.
And there's a multiplier built in. One of the things that I like, so with the yoga teachers, okay, so the yoga teachers like your movie, they're going to talk to the people they're teaching
Yes, of
about
course.
your film. And that's kind of can spread virally or organically. Hi.
Hi, just two questions. One for Jan is, if you aim for a film to start its career at, say, Sundance and Berlin and it doesn't get in, would you wait for the next A-list festival, or do you try a B
No,
circuit?
we have alternative launch scenarios. If you look at the spring, and if Sundance and Berlin doesn't work, we look at the period of March, May, June, and we look at Nyon, we look at Thessaloniki, we look at Planet Doc in Poland. There's about 4 or 5 festivals in like a 2-month period that have that A-list, and they don't bite each other. They can take the same film, and that's what we try to do. And if that doesn't work, then I don't know anymore.
And my other question is, other than the Healthy People film, most of the examples you showed were films that were launched in Sundance or IDFA. And I know you mentioned this at the end, that it's not a requirement to build a core audience for a film, but I'm wondering, in your experience working with films, how influential have festivals been for the success of those films eventually?
If you're making a food film, festivals don't matter. They can be helpful, but a lot of the people in that audience are not going to care if Food Inc. went to Toronto or not. So I really think this goes back to this utility issue, and this also relates to the whole idea of having a newsletter. So let me just give you an example. If you send out a newsletter, you say, sign up to our mailing list, and you say, for updates on the movie. Well, my opinion is we all get too many updates. I don't need to be on a more list for updates. But if you say, I'm going to send you something that I value, then I may get on your mailing list. So when you think about what you can send out, so here's an example. Let's say there's somebody on your team, your creative team, that's a really talented still photographer. And there's stills that he or she shot related to the movie. You say, okay, we're going to send a fantastic still once a month to the people. We're not going to be asking for buy the movie or whatever, tell the behind-the-scenes stories of how the movie was made. We're going to just send them something they want. If you're making a film that's related to food and you have information that's current, that's valuable, and you send that out, people are going to be happy to open that email. And in the case of Hungry for Change, Food Matters, and also Forks Over Knives, they were sending out a newsletter once a month, and they realized that once a month isn't often enough. They send it out once a week. And they said they've learned that there's so much noise in this space that if you're not in touch with your base once a week, that they forget about you. And so I think it's really thinking about what you can give people that they value. And the more good stuff you give them for free, the more kind of indebted they are. So when they have a chance to buy something from you, hopefully they'll support you. And I think it's really thinking about how you have a win-win relationship. This is true with distributors. It's true with sales agents. You want them to do well. You want to do well. And same with members of your audience. You want the film to help them. You want to provide information to them that's really useful. And then you hope that they'll be supportive of you. So and Amanda Palmer's an example. She gives her music out for free. People can donate to the campaign. That works. There's a mic coming your way.
First of all, thank you for this great presentation you gave, very inspiring and informative. I have a question for both of you, and then I have a question for Peter Broderick. The question for both of you is, how early you usually get involved into a film, in which phase, and how early you would like to get involved. And the question for Peter Broderick is, do you have any examples of films that were very well researched with their core audience, but somehow it went wrong? And can you tell us why?
Why don't you start?
Involved is the basic idea. Somebody pitches me an idea that I really, really like and value and think is important. And then I may say, well, just keep me posted, keep me informed over the time, and if there's anything I can do. And sometimes I write support letters that help people to get grants and stuff like that. But I'm not really getting involved. Then eventually the film gets into a certain shape that I get back involved. Or people who have done their film, shot it, and it is the first, what I call, viewable cut. The first cut that you, as a filmmaker, think, I can actually show that to third people, and I'm feeling safe with this. And then we can take it from there.
It's a good question. When I started doing this, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've worked with 1,200 filmmakers around the world. And people would come to me when the movie was done. And part of my job is to help them avoid making mistakes. It's not just, as that obviously, which is what Jan does too. So if they've made a lot of mistakes, some of which are kind of fatal, they opened at some festival I never heard of, I mean, just, you know, and you go, it's like, I don't know that I can really help you at this point. It's kind of too late. So along the way, I've been working with filmmakers more and more earlier. And so this is what I feel, and this is not just whether work with me, there's other people that obviously can help you, but I recommend to all of you that you create a distribution strategy for your movie before you shoot any footage, before you raise any money. And then you take that distribution strategy to potential funders or investors or whoever, and then you can show them that this movie is going to get made, it's going to come in the world, this is the kind of impact it could have, and it's vivid. It's not some speculation, well, nobody will ever see the movie. So, and it doesn't have to be an elaborate thing. You don't have to have a business plan with projected, you know, finances or anything like that. So in like 6, 8 pages, you talk about core audiences, you talk about different versions, you talk about different avenues, and it can be really thought through. And that's going to separate your film from the other 900 that come their way that have some, well, we're going to go to Sundance and then we're going to be on video and on TV.
When we get approached for a film that we are interested in, the first question we ask to the filmmaker is, what is your goal? What do you want? And some of them say to us, TV sales only. And then we say, oh, wonderful, that's easy.
But that's a key question. I mean, when I start working with filmmakers, I always say, talk to me about your goals. And again, 95% of the time, there's not clarity about goals. So what I want to know is, what's most important? Is it career? Is it changing the world? Is it maximizing revenue? They're not mutually exclusive, but I want you to rank them for me. I want you to tell me what's most important, because then that's going to create a framework within which we can make decisions. You can change it along the way, it's okay. But let's start and be clear. Sometimes different people on the team have different goals, and let's get clear about that framework, and then we can do stuff.
And the second question I had for you about
right.
examples of very well-studied core audience.
I often get criticized because I don't talk about, I talk about success stories, I don't talk about failures. And it's not that I can't talk about failures, but the problem with failures is that I can't explain to you reasons things failed. There's films that I've worked on that had tremendous potential, and the filmmakers just didn't do their job. They've got, thousands of DVDs sitting in their garage because they never made a phone call to, the actors that would have wanted to see the movie. And so there aren't really lessons there. I can tell you things that you can do to, maximize your chances of it working. But, sometimes filmmaking teams are dysfunctional, as you might know. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mediator. Sometimes they're married, getting divorced. I mean, I'm powerless in that situation.
No, but we can say that I think the market being relatively complicated, that we ask sometimes from filmmakers a certain level of flexibility. We are not idiots. We know what we're talking about. So be flexible. And if the film is 2.5 hours long, and I speak for 10 minutes about necessity of other cuts, and I get a straight no, then what can I say?
Right. I mean, ultimately, these are your decisions. We can only give you our experience and perspective, and you can listen or not listen, But I will tell you that there's certain clients that come to me and they know all the answers, or potential clients, because I don't work with them. They know all the answers already. So what do you need me for? I mean, I can't be of any help because you figured it all out. So I don't work with those people. And the way I work is I work initially with people for like 4.5 hours over maybe 6 months total. And then I'm going to find out what the kind of fit is, and am I going insane, or is it a really good relationship? And if I'm going insane, then I'm not going to work with them longer. And I'll tell you one thing, and this is, I mean, this may sound pathetic that I'm saying this, but a little appreciation goes a long way. You know, we really work hard and care for these filmmakers.
We do.
And sometimes just saying thank you.
It's a wonderful thing, Peter.
Yeah. It's amazing. So, more questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Can I just make a remark? You actually should put one more thing to your list.
Okay.
Making a documentary is great fun.
Oh, there you go. All right. Making.
But that's a good one to end with.
Okay, no, don't end yet. I got to say something, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you adding it to your list?
Okay, well, let's just, we have a little more time. So there were a few other hands.
Okay.
So that woman there got the mic.
Yeah, I'm an soon, hopefully, truly independent director-producer from Berlin. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'd be interested in how you, Peter, work with directors, producers. Like, how does your work look like? How's the collaboration exactly?
Typically, when I started out, I would do these marathon sessions where I would, talk to people for 2 to 3 hours. And I realized they'd stumble out of my place in a daze. And I realized that an hour, 60 minutes was the maximum length of time that people could pay attention without, just kind of being too full. So when I start, I usually do hour sessions with people. It could be by Skype or in person or phone or whatever. And then, I'll give them a lot of ideas, and then they'll go off and they'll think about it, and they'll refine things, and they'll do things, and then they'll say, okay, let's do another hour. It could be 3 months later, and other things have happened in the meantime, so we can take that information on board and then talk about, well, what makes sense now? And then usually it's over a 6-month period. That's typical, but some filmmakers had their 4.5 hours last 22 months. That was pretty impressive. And so when there's different stages, once distribution offers start coming in, and this is something that obviously Jan's been involved in 1 million deals, and the one thing I would say is DIY filmmaking, do-it-yourself filmmaking is fine, and do-it-yourself distribution has lots to recommend it, although I want you to have distribution partners. DIY deal making is not fine. You're negotiating with people who have negotiated for years, know all the tricks, know what's real, and so get some help. I'm not saying, it could be Jan, it could be different people, and make sure that the helper, whether it's an attorney or a rep, is up to speed. Because what I've seen is that a lot of these people, and I'm a former attorney, so I can say this, okay? A lot of attorneys are 5 years behind the times. So they can negotiate a deal, but they're not asking for the right things anymore. They're kind of stuck in that sort of old model. And so you need to make sure that the people who are helping you in those situations are really knowledgeable about what's important now. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I was not an attorney, but...
And, well, you do your own legal stuff, which is cool.
I don't need attorneys.
I know. You're too cool. Okay, so I'll just give you one little negotiating thing. So let's say a distributor's interested in your movie. They say, okay, well, we'll send you a contract, and it's the boilerplate contract, and we can negotiate from there. Okay, let's translate that. We're going to send you the worst contract we can dream up, and then you can negotiate from there, so it'll be less worse, but it'll still be bad. Okay, why don't we start out with a fair contract, and then, negotiate that. And that's a much better framework. And so Jan's contract, and I can tell you some others, they're basically fair to begin with. You can modify things, but there's not this idea that we're going to screw you every way we can think of, and then you have to spend a lot of time, and it goes on forever, and it costs money, and whatever. So,
Some of these contracts are like 22 pages, but you basically only need to talk about the first 2, the essential points.
Yeah.
And the rest should be okay.
Right. So the idea is you need a distribution team, and I'm serious. So when you make a movie, you need a production team. So who's on your distribution team? So a foreign sales agent for sure. Websites, I think, are really, really important. So it's not just about designing and building the website initially. It's someone that can help you manage the content on the website. So it's not a dead website that's the same for months and months and months. It's kind of changing and growing over time, so that somebody can help you there. If you're going to be doing fulfillment, if you're going to sell DVDs from your website, you want a company that can mail them out and handle the credit cards and customer service. If you're going to do digital from your website, you need a company that can do that for you, and there's some really good companies that can do that. If you're going to do theatrical, there's people that you can hire, like film bookers, who can kind of do that for you. There's other people that specialize in outreach to nonprofit organizations. These are part-time positions. It's not like you're hiring full-time people. If you're going to do semi-theatrical screenings, there are people that can help you there. So finding a group of people that you work with well and trust, you're going to work with them again the next time around if you've had a good experience. But get help. Don't suffer from the I have to do it all myself disease that many filmmakers have.
A question for Ian. You said that the festival launch party is essential, very important for your work. And how much the work of the filmmaker to get also his part of independence with the audience involvement is important for your clients? It's relevant for your clients, for TV buyers?
Well, I'm an intermediate. So whatever my client is, a distribution company or a distribution format in a country or a TV in a country, they will have to deal with those audiences. The only thing I do is sometimes give them ideas where to find certain audiences, but I'm not really involved in those efforts.
No, yeah, I meant it's the work on audience involvement. Yeah. It's useful for your work as a sales agent with your clients. TV buyers perceive.
Yes, but I'm not the one who's looking for the audiences. I'm passing it on to a client.
Okay.
I'm just like the idea I just had about the yoga teachers is that I happen to know a German distributor whose wife is a yoga teacher. Okay, we sometimes have inside information about things, and I pitched the film to this guy, and the guy said, "Wonderful, because I know what that core audience is. I'm not the one looking for the core audience. I'm just maybe sometimes coming up with ideas." I mean, the women who made Ghost in Our Machine, the Canadian film about animal rights, they didn't know about the animal party in the Netherlands. They just had no knowledge of it. It's possible. They're 5,000 kilometers further down the globe. And I put the idea on the table, and then they executed the idea. I was not involved in that idea.
Thank you.
So, yeah, okay. From the balcony. All right.
Yeah, this is a question for Peter. And thank you for your talk. It was very, very interesting. And my question is, if you are a first-time filmmaker and creating a mailing list, trying to create a mailing list that goes beyond family and friends and Facebook, how do you generate that, or kind of go outside the realms of that so that you can generate a bigger mailing list?
What I would suggest is that think about core audiences, and if there are websites that are kind of related to that subject, you can reach out to them and see if they'll say something about the film that you're making, and then people can come to your website and sign up. If there are organizations that like the idea of the film, they can let members know and encourage them to come to you. You can create a little teaser or a trailer that could float around the web, kind of virally on YouTube and other places, and at the end, come to the website for more information. So I think it's step by step, and it doesn't have to be huge. In some cases, the value of the mailing list is more the quality of the connection with you, not just the sheer numbers. But there's also word of mouth, where one person who's on your list will like being on your list and the information that you're providing, and will tell their friend or their family member. It takes time, but when you think about the value of those people over your career, it's really, really great. So when I think about career, and I know it's different in Europe where you've got government support for filmmaking, although you have had, I know it's getting eroding now. But when I think about career and you think, well, what correlates with success? Let's assume talent, okay? So I would say the size of an audience that a filmmaker has is related to their chances of having a career, assuming they're a talented filmmaker. And if you're alone, and Jan's point about being involved in your distribution, I just want to underline that. Doesn't mean you're not going to be in partners with distributors, you're not going to have people on your team, but if you don't take some responsibility for your distribution, you're not going to learn about this new world. And the next movie you make, you're going to be at a greater disadvantage. So the value of being involved in it is that you learn it in a way that you can't learn from coming to a presentation or reading a book or an article. And if you understand it, then your possibilities going forward are so much greater.
Like, translated into money and television, if we make a deal for you with Arte, for instance, in Europe, they may pre-buy your next film. So it's interesting for us to involve you in that, and you make them. And I actually present filmmakers I work with to the buyers. There's a little risk that the next time they don't call me, but that's just the risk I take. But I'm interested in that next position when I can help them negotiate a pre-sale, so they know the filmmaker.
You know, at some point when I talk to filmmakers, I say there's only one reason to be an independent filmmaker today, and then I stop and I look around the room and I think, what do they think I'm going to say that one reason is? Okay, so the reason is because you can't help yourself. Okay, there are other things you could be doing that are saner, fairer, you know, easier to have careers, but you're compelled to do this. So our job is to try to help you keep doing that.
Create frameworks.
Yeah, create frameworks and actually think about how you can build a career over time, not just have to be lucky, you know, on each movie. And that's where I think feeling that there's a community behind you, it doesn't have to be huge, of people, of supporters, is going to give you a real advantage. So last thing, okay, I just want to say that I think your timing is great to be making films now. 5 years ago and 31 years ago when Jan started out, these opportunities were not there.
Yeah.
There was an old world with rules. We now have a new world with no rules. The old rulers haven't really figured that out
To make
yet.
it a little easier.
So we're living in this frontier, okay? And how lucky are we? Because distribution is kind of the same for 80 years, and now it's changing, and we get to reinvent it, and it's going to be a time, I think, of continual reinvention. So you get to try things. You'll learn from those things. You'll share those with other filmmakers, and you'll learn what they're learning. So I just think it's an incredibly exciting time, and I wish you all lots of luck.
Okay.
Thank you so much.